So a bit about the scanner itself. Touch screen, one button trigger, which is basically the go button. And you've got the optics. So dead easy to use. You just press the trigger to start the scan. So this has a focal range, so if that's too close, that's perfect. Going blue, that's a bit far. Yep. So I want to be green. So the way I tackle a head scan, so we keep still for a second, I'm going to start the scan. I'll go literally from ear to ear. So a bit like in that time-lapse video here, I'm just actually going to tidy you up. So I'm going to make a bust, so I'm going to trim you around where the shoulders are. So although the beard isn't totally captured, so like I said, actually in reality, you actually get more than you think. So if I show all frames, there's a little bit more information there. Not a lot, but what the software will attempt to do is these kind of patches of data, it will try to join them together. Yeah. So although they're quite disparative, like an archipelago, so I jokingly call it, lots of islands of data, I will try and get the software to force to use the islands and almost create land bridges all the way between them. So to do that, I'm actually going to choose under fill holes option, watertight. Yep, so it'll endeavor, no matter how large the gap is, essentially, of the model, create something that's watertight, something that's completely complete. So click apply. So the software does a surprisingly good job of try to marrying up these islands of data. So the question, how does it handle hair? To an extent, not bad. But obviously, if there's so little data to work with, then, so I guess in that scenario, if you really wanted to capture your beard, I would have maybe wetted your beard to make it more contiguous. Yeah, because it's seeing your beard almost like a porous item. Yeah, it's like trying to scan, Swiss cheese. Yeah, quite literally, there's holes everywhere, right? So some of it captures the surface, some of it doesn't. So I'm going to use something called X-ray. This allows me to figure out the square of the person and the item. It's about there. There we go. So that's nice and flat. So I'm just going to, let's have a look. Let's tidy this up a little. So I'm going to defeature, but this time we use a 3D brush for this. And just knock out any lumps, as I jokingly call it, just to make it a bit more tidier. Yeah, so again, all it's doing is deleting and hole filling in one go. That's all it's doing. So the last thing to do is obviously give you some color. So before I do that, I'm actually going to optimize you a little, because at this moment in time, if I show the wireframe of this, and I zoom all the way in, you can see these are approximately 1mm triangles, because that's the resolution I set for this model. Obviously, the smaller my triangles, the more detailed the whole thing's going to be. So the best way to think about it is a bit like a mosaic. The smaller your pieces of your mosaic, the more detailed the whole thing's going to be. But the sacrifice is that the data set is going to be pretty heavy to work with. So I'm actually going to do a bit of optimization here. So I'm actually going to use mesh simplification, because at this moment in time, it's about 1 million polygons. Yep, it's a fair amount of polygons, which is actually okay in reality. But if for a reason I need it smaller, like for instance, it was going into a VR or AR experience, and I need everything to be super lightweight, because there's potentially about 50 head scans in that model or experience. Last thing I want is to overload the computer so that the experience is ruined. Yeah, because if I turn my head too quickly, things may still be loading in, which ruins the immersion completely. Yeah, I want everything to be loaded up, everything to be present, so I don't lose the immersion, right? So I want everything to be super slender as much as I can. So I'm going to halve the size of this approximately, but still keep the detail. So hopefully, if I do the before and after, you should be able to tell the difference. So if I zoom in a bit, that's 1 million, that's 500,000. 1 million, 500,000. Imperceptible difference, right? The only way you would know is you would triangle peep. Yeah, so if I do before and after, revealing the triangles. Yeah, so that's optimization, essentially. And last thing we're going to do is color you in. Let's give you some color. There you go. So you're ready to be used as a theatre prop. So you could plausibly 3D print them in color. You could scale them up, scale them down, do whatever you want with this. Yeah. What I achieved in half an hour is perfectly acceptable. But if you need that extra 10%, so I often say 80-20, right? This is the 80%, but done very quickly. The additional 20% gain to get to the perfection takes another week. And if you really want to get creative, you can use ZBrush, Mudbox, those kind of things. It's an STL file, it's a mesh. So Mudbox, you can go to the nth degree with. I guess what I'm trying to say there is that the process is actually quite quick. Yeah. It's the finesse, it's the other 20% that takes a bit longer if you want the ultra detail.